I feel like one of Rachel's other top contenders, Tino, we see him spiraling a bit, I will say, this episode. And I want to pick your brain on how you felt about just Tino in general and how he handled this situation, because I obviously have my thoughts and opinions, but it was interesting. I feel like the way he approached it and the things he chose to say about how he was processing the situation kind of rubbed me the wrong way. How did you feel about it all?
I agree. I not to, Tino, if you're listening, not to laugh at this, but I totally laughed at this. I don't know if it was Ethan or Tyler, but someone was like, Tino's being a baby back bitch right now.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, okay, but I mean, a little bit, you know, like I get it. It is hard. And we said, you know, the week before hometowns is a really intense week, so the pressures are high. And I actually had a moment on my season where I didn't get the group date rose, and I had really opened up. We'd had a really good connection. I was really needing that validation that week, and I struggled. Like I struggled with not getting it. But the way Tino went about it, of like kind of picking up his wine glass and walking out to take a moment, I was like, okay, you know, he needs a moment. That's okay. But then hearing the things he was saying about how, you know, I checked every box, I said all the right things. I hope that was just poor verbiage on his part and he doesn't actually mean it in the way it came across. Because if he does need to be reminded that, like, it's not about saying the right things. It's not about, you know, sharing something vulnerable and expecting a reward. A reward. Yeah, exactly. And it felt like he did XYZ and he should get a rose to reward that, versus feeling upset and discouraged that, like, he really cares about this woman and is looking for some validation from her.
Yeah. I think you said it best. I think you nailed it. And I would agree. I think it's not that, like, having strong feelings for somebody and being invested in this relationship and being upset that you know, feel kind of off after a conversation happened is one thing. Like, he is entitled to feel however he feels. Like, that is valid. The part I think that I'm sure rubbed me and maybe other viewers a little bit off, and because he didn't say anything bad, but it's the fact that, like you said, he hit all the points. He won the cheese challenge, and he opened up in a way that he felt like he hasn't been able to open up before, that he deserved something. And it's like,
yeah.
But you also don't know these other conversations that these guys are having with Rachel. And she's not invalidating your relationship by not giving you this rose in this moment. Like, if anything, she's probably on the same page as Tino and cares just as much about him. But she also has multiple relationships that she's working through. And so it just, part of me, and we already know, like, because we see a little bit behind the scenes and, like, we see what she is saying about him and, like, how she feels about him. So we are privy to a bit more than he was in that moment. But, like, we know she cares about him just as much. We know she's, like, falling for this man. Yeah. But, yeah, I think the sense of entitlement and, like, because I did XYZ, I deserve more. XYZ, whatever. What's like,
it's like him feeling that he's more deserving than anyone else there because he was vulnerable and he was strong at the cheese challenge. Whereas it's like, you don't know what these other conversations were, you don't know how they went, and it doesn't necessarily mean that she doesn't have, you know, she could be madly in love with Tino at this point and still potentially give someone else a rose that week, because there are multiple connections there and they are developing differently. But he did start to talk about later, you know, after, I think it was in the rose ceremony, about how he was like, I'm starting to worry that, like, maybe she doesn't feel the same way. So I do feel like everything he was saying, I hope, because I have liked him up until this point and I still do like him, came from a place of insecurity and, like, discouragement versus a place of, like, have you just been really strategic this entire time and you're feeling entitled to these roses because you have in your head been strategic about what you've been saying.